Great. Shall we start?
Let's.
Yes.
Great. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us in today's session on the Adobe agreement, including the upcoming engagement program. My name is Huda Makhtari, and I'm the partnerships manager in Jisc's licensing, Jisc's licensing. Just to confirm before we get started, this webinar will be recorded and will be available to view after the webinar has taken place. Throughout the session, feel free to use the Q&A box to share any thoughts and if you've got any questions. But we will also have some time to answer some questions towards the end of the webinar. So let's look at, we'll also have, at the end of the webinar, we'll also have a slide with some contact information, with the contact information of staff members, and the slides and the recording will be shared with you after the webinar. So let's look at what we're covering today. I'll start with some introductions from the Jisc side and the from Adobe. Then we'll move on an overview on the ETLA agreement and the Adobe Express option. We'll then have a section where we're going to speak about the Adobe engagement program. And finally, we'll have a final overview on the Adobe Express. The final bits will be left for Q&A questions. So introductions. We've got from the Jisc side, Howard Moody, Chris Thompson, Olivia Sass. From the Adobe, we've got Fiona Camino and Mike Don. Howard, I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Ashura. My name's Howard Moody. I'm a software licensing consultant at Jisc, and I've been working with Adobe since Adam was a boy on behalf of the higher and further education sector.
Over to you, Chris.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chris Thompson. I am the program lead for digital practice with Jisc's advice team. I've been working with Jisc since 2010.
Great. We've got Olivia Sass, who is the coordinator for the engagement program, and myself, the partnerships manager. But I'll be handing over for some introductions from our Adobe colleagues. Fiona, handing over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. My name's Fiona Camino. I am Head of Higher Education for the UK. So looking forward to this morning's engagement. Mike?
Thanks, Fiona. I'm an account manager for Adobe, so I work with our Creative Campus partnerships.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, Howard, would you like to start with the Jisc Adobe agreement?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Huda. Thank you for the introduction. It's good to see some familiar names in the participants list, but there are a few people I don't recognise. So for those of you who are already familiar with the existing ETLA agreement, apologies if this is kind of old news, but I think it's helpful to have a refresher. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. The Adobe ETLA agreement that's in place basically has two main options, one of which is effectively institutional. So that's based on your total staff FTE count as reported by HESA, SFA, or whoever your reporting authority might be. You pay based on your total staff FTE count. And for that, all of your staff headcount receive CCE Pro, so Creative Cloud Pro named user licenses that they can use both on and off campus, on institution machines and their own personal devices. And also you received effectively an unlimited number of Creative Cloud shared device licenses, which you put on classroom and lab machines, and then any of your students can use on campus. The second main option is student named user licenses, and they are effectively the same as the staff named user licenses. They allow students to use Creative Cloud Pro both on institution machines, but also on their own devices, both on and off campus. There is a minimum quantity for those at the moment, which is 250 for FE institutions and 500 for higher education institutions. There are a number of other options available under the agreement, but they're very much based on you buying one or both of those main options. Could we have the next slide, please? Okay, the ETLA Express offer basically is the same as the institutional offer. So you get Creative Cloud Pro for all of your staff. You get shared device licenses for all classroom and lab machines, but you also get the higher education version of Adobe Express for all students. So that's your total student headcount. Now, pricing is based on your staff FTE. It's not about counting how many students you'll be giving this to, though you will need to declare the number of students you expect to give it to at some point. Can I have the next slide, please? The pricing difference, as you will see, is well, close enough to £10 per annum. So for those of you already in agreement, you're paying £49.78 per annum for your institutional license, and it would add £9.96 to go up to the one that includes Adobe Express Higher Education for all of your students. Bear in mind, the agreement itself is a 3-year term. It started in August 2023 and will run through to August 2026. So if you decide that you do want to add Adobe Express to your licenses this summer, then it is effectively only a 1-year commitment on your behalf, because a new agreement hopefully will be in place for August 2026. Can I have the next slide, please, Huda? Thank you. Okay, this is a couple of pricing examples. It's just to give an idea, really, of the kind of difference in pricing. These are both based on institutions that did take the option last summer. And as you'll see, it roughly adds about £1 per student per annum to the cost. Though do bear in mind that staff FTE is the licensing metrics that will depend on your staff-student ratios. But those are just a couple of samples for you. Can we have the next slide, please? The Adobe Express offer is now available on our website for institutions to add to this year, or if you have not currently part of the ETLA, to join from scratch. If you go to chess.ac.uk and just search on ETLA, you'll find the agreement. If you do want to go to the 100% Express for Students offer, we will need a new participation letter from you, though I will provide a guided one to help with the completion, and also a new online commitment form. But all of these details are on the website. One important thing just to flag up that is unusual is that there is a self-declared student number that's required. So that is the number that we will report to Adobe. It will form the number of licenses that are shown in your portal. Now, as part of the agreement, you can over-deploy that by up to 20% during the year. That 20% headroom is really there for end of year when you're moving students off, and beginning of the year when you're adding new students to the agreement. If you go above that, then you will need to pay for additional licenses. As I say, it is a self-declared number, so please don't be conservative when you fill that part of the form in. Okie dokie. I think that's me done now. So I'll hand over to Chris.
Thanks, Howard. So I'd like to have a chat to you quickly about what I think is one of the most kind of exciting parts of this this licensing agreement, which is something that sits alongside the pricing and the licensing side of things. So this idea of the Transforming Together program. So we're at the end of our first year of running this now. So really kind of looking forward to deploying it for a second year. But when the idea of this license agreement is being put together, one of the important things for Jisc and for Adobe and utilising as well, who kind of helped to negotiate it, was to look beyond just the idea of implementing a platform, so purchasing licenses and implementing a platform. It was looking at what role Adobe Express and all its affordances could have in helping you as an organization in your digital transformation journey. And between Jisc and Adobe, we have got loads of expertise and experience which we can help to bring to bear to support your institutions in going on that. So I wanted to take that apart a little bit, explain what we mean by transforming together, give you a bit of a flavor for what it might look like. So Huda, if you can just nudge me on a slide. Look at all those happy people there standing at the top of Adobe Towers in London there. So this is some of our first cohorts from this year, the launch workshop back in October 24. So the idea behind learning together, it's basically there are three elements to it, three organizations that come together: Jisc, Adobe, and you as the pioneer institutions, so people that are purchasing the licenses. And it's very much a combination of equals within this. So Howard's kind of taking you through the sort of license agreement there, but the Transforming Together program itself is a way of marrying up the Adobe Express platform with Jisc's digital transformation framework, which we've been working on for a few years now, and then applying that to your very specific context. With the purpose being, the whole value realization thing is that we want you to be able to derive the greatest possible value from the investment that you're making in Adobe Express. So what is it you can actually do to really kind of leverage the affordances to make a difference within your organization? And Leeds Trinity, who are one of our first cohort or organizations there, explaining in the quote about kind of the standard aspect of this agreement is the Transforming Together Leading and Learning Group. So this was when they were just having the first session and beginning that journey, but it was already at that stage showing what it could do. Huda, next slide, please. If you're not familiar with the digital transformation framework, then it's certainly worth digging into. So this is a framework that's been put together by Jisc's higher education team under Sarah and I, co-designed with the community. It's been running various kind of pilot projects over the last wee while, but the full document is available through the link that we've got there, and you'll be able to access that through the slides once you get them. In a nutshell, the idea behind the digital transformation is that it's a multi-dimensional approach to transforming your organization, to improving outcomes, which has loads of different overlapping dimensions to it. So whether it's to do with how your organization is building creation and innovation, knowledge development, building its culture, working with knowledge and knowledge exchange partnerships. One particular so the main sort of aspect of it on the right, you can see we sort of break this down. So all the different things which there are direct relationships with Adobe Express. And the license here is about thinking about that cultural mindset, but also thinking very clearly about what does it mean for curriculum development and curriculum change. What about digital learning, teaching, and learner experience? There's loads and loads of different touch points that we look at with the Transforming Together program. It's so much more than just looking at how can we encourage people to use the software. It's kind of what are they doing with it? How are they building it? How is it helping you to achieve your broader aims and your objectives as an organization? Next slide, please, Huda. Thank you. So when you put it all together, what do you get? So the transformation framework, access to Jisc subject matter experts in the licensing team and also Jisc's advice team, which is kind of where I come into it, alongside Adobe product experts like Fiona, like Mike, Mark Andrews, who some of you may already know, who's worked intensely with higher education over the years. And coming together in this exclusive user group with Jisc and Adobe. So what does it look like? We have been building it around 3 headline termly workshops where we bring together the cohort for some facilitated activities and exploration, both to share experiences, questions, challenges, but also for us, for Adobe and Jisc, to lay out some challenges, some design challenges, with a view to coming out with some very practical, very particular outcomes that you can take forward. They're very active, they're very participative, and have been really challenging but great fun. Personally speaking, it's been one of the highlights of the year for me and for my team. We also back that up with some pop-up online engagements. So there's a monthly drop-in, sort of an informal space for people to get together and just around a particular question, just kind of share ideas about kind of where we are and work together on things. So it's all facilitated by Jisc and Adobe subject matter product experts, but it provides that forum for sharing practices and experiences moving forward. It's very much kind of a peer-to-peer style approach. I think if we sort of go on to the next. Oh, there we go. The other thing we're kind of interested in is sort of outputs of recognition, but sort of including blogs and member stories. It's important that that we kind of bring together the knowledge and we help to kind of share it that happens as a result of this. If you were at DigiFest this year, then you might have seen the keynote panel from some of the participants this year, or listened in on the podcast that Jonathan and Jonathan Hofgartner and various others put out. You might also have visited the Adobe stand that was there. Adobe is one of the strategic partners for the event, but we're hoping again to make DigiFest a cornerstone of this cohort. So it's a forum for you to be able to kind of get, demonstrate your experiences and widen that conversation out nationally. Next slide, please. Oh, there's always an extra one. We'll just keep going. We'll keep going. Thanks, Huda. Next one. Let's just have all these up. So you might be thinking about kind of different aspects of transformation within your organization that you want Adobe Express to help you with on your journey. So it might be some of these things. Particularly, we're spending a lot of time delving into issues of authentic assessment, redesigning assessment for the modern age. What are the different creative, innovative practices that people can help to develop? Looking at the skills aspect as well, kind of how we can use Adobe Express as a way to provide a forum for students to develop their creative skills, but also look at things like graduate employability in a competitive jobs marketplace. How do you help people to stand out, particularly in a world where we're being kind of, there's a lot more sort of competition for job spaces, but also how do you make people stand out in a world of AI, and how Adobe's AI tools can support that as well. We look at issues of equity of access, improving digital fluency, and as an organization thinking about how to look at redesign of the curriculum for that digital world. So there are many different ways of slicing this. It's not just a kind of a question of kind of one output that we're looking at. And what you bring to transforming together will be shaped by your own aims and objectives. Next slide, please. So these are our program principles. It's voluntary. So you can buy the license and not participate in this. That's absolutely fine. But we think, and we're confident, Jisc and Adobe, that this is a key way of helping you to derive the greatest value from that license. So We are trying to build a collaborative partnership here. It's not just Jisc and Adobe telling people what to do. It's based on institutional leadership. It's really important that what we found is a lot of the success for the organizations that are participating is that there's kind of full buy-in from right across the organization, from senior level sponsors right down to the people that are participating directly in the Transform Together program. And we are there at Adobe and Jisc to provide support and facilitation. We're not trying to kind of direct you into the way that is what we think is best for you. We're focused on educational benefit, maximizing the value, and we are trying to foster a cooperative approach to this. One of the things that I found most satisfying and energizing of this is kind of seeing when you bring the organizations together to do peer-to-peer activities, just how vibrant and effective that can be. For me, that's the most powerful thing about this. It's when you get different organizations working together to share ideas and challenges and help answer each other's questions. Next slide, please, Huda. So how to participate in the program? For each institution, there are 3 places available, and we recommend that institutions select roles that can enact change, the people that are in those positions of change agents, to provide a diverse range of institutional perspectives. So we've had people from curriculum design, from learning technology support, from IT, from libraries, all kind of present within this organization, and those multiple touch points are really, really important because they're the ones that kind of help to kind of spread the words and make change more successful within the organization. So once you purchase the license, there'll be an invitation sent following your institution's order for Adobe Express agreement option, which you can respond to, and more information about how to engage with that will then be forthcoming. But Huda is the person to address initially with any questions that you've got about kind of what this might look like, or you can talk to your Jisc relationship manager as well. So just before I sort of hand over, we're a great position now, having had a year's worth of experience, that we're starting to see the impact of this happen within the organizations that have been involved. I'm not going to read these out to you, but I think they're certainly worth looking at when you get a chance to look at the slides there. But think about kind of what are these different organizations actually doing? Everything, they all look different. They all look very different. The size of the organizations, how they've gone about sort of applying this transforming together approach within their organization, who is it they've got leading it, and so on. So each of the different outcomes is very different. But here we've got sort of Manchester Mets, York St John, Arts University Plymouth, all heavily involved. And next one, yes, so Leeds Trinity, Kingston, and the University of Hertfordshire. These 6 in particular have really got the bit between their teeth and have sort of been working through this. The benefit of being the second cohort, of course, is the fact that you benefit from the outcome of the first cohort. So we are hoping to engage colleagues from the first cohort as part of the second to sort of help with that continuity and bring you into a wider, more long-lasting community than just kind of the single year community. I'm happy to take more questions about this at the end if you want to know a little bit more about what this looks like. But certainly for me, it's the thing which really makes this license agreement really, really powerful. So I'm going to hand back to, I think it's colleagues in Adobe now. Yes, I'm going to hand over to Fiona and Mike to tell us a bit more about Adobe Express as a platform.
Thank you, Chris. Next slide, please, Huda. So I think just to ground us all on what Howard was perhaps touching on at the very start. So we have a number of offerings. So as he rightly pointed out, there are Creative Cloud for FTE, for staff, and then we have Creative Cloud for your core users. So those are the users that need the more professional tools. So perhaps those users who are doing degree courses in the more traditional creative subjects. And then, as Howard also touched on, Adobe Express, and this is the premium Express that you can unlock for all of your students. And then there's just one other feature on there, Adobe Sign, which is also part of the agreement. So just wanted to ground us on the current offering under the Jisc ETLA. Next slide, please. So why Adobe Express? Why are we all here this morning, just before lunch? Next slide, please. So today there are 1 in 4 students in degree courses who have access to Adobe Express. However, there are 2.7 million students studying across higher sector in non-creative subjects. So those are the students that we need to touch. Today, and this is LinkedIn data, by the way, 40% of available jobs in the UK still require creative skills. However, only 14% of graduates, recent graduates, actually list those skills on their CV. Next slide, please. This is independent research by the World Economic Forum that they ran in 2023. So now this is 2 years old. But back then, even then they pointed out that the #1 skill that would rise significantly is creative thinking, that critical creative thinking. And that's what we believe Express will help unlock for your students. Next slide, please. So let's have a look at Express in a little bit more detail. Next slide, please. Mike.
Hi there. Yes, I mean, in terms of Express, I said what you're getting with this agreement is a baseline level of technology for everyone, which is important for universities who are looking at those enterprise-wide strategies. And as Chris covered really well, they tend to be around, if you're looking at building digital skills, you're looking at embedding inclusive and authentic assessment into the curriculum, employability, and of course, no one's talking about it at the moment, but AI. If you want to embed AI ethically and safely into, and how do you go about doing that, it's a fantastic tool for sort of delivering all those things. And they tend to be the drivers that lead to institutions sort of taking this agreement and us working with them. If you go to the next slide, please. There's some examples here that I'll leave, and obviously you can look at these later, student examples, but there's so many different ways you can use it. But certainly the reflective blog there, we see that a lot. It's a great way of getting students to think, sort of engage and think critically about their work and what they've done. And again, it's very much about the skills they're developing rather than just learning to use Adobe Express. It's critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving. So if you go to the next slide, I think there's some more examples on there. But certainly from my own experience, I work with UE quite a lot. I know with their nurses, they were struggling to build digital skills with them, and I have found it really useful in conveying to their nursing how important it is to be able to communicate well and build relationships with their patients. And if they can convey information that might be complex medical information to their patients better, perhaps using visuals and things, using Express, then that will help them be better nurses and build better relationships with their patients. I know as well, we see huge popularity with podcasts and students using those to stimulate sort of discussion and further discussions, and again engage them in their content. Next slide, please. Obviously, the other side of the equation, as well as students, is staff. See a lot of university strategies with sort of upskilling staff as part of that. We've just done our Adobe Education Institute, where we had over 1,000 educators learning in bite-sized chunks. So it's not a heavy lift for staff to pick up new skills and deliver those. And in terms of, I think Chris mentioned earlier, Manchester Met, we work with them very closely. And if we go to the next slide, please, on their Delta strategy and working with their staff. And certainly in one department, they've aligned their Delta strategy with their graduate outcomes. And our customer success manager, who you get with Creative Campus, has worked with them to align those graduate outcomes and ensure that students are gaining the skills they need that are industry specific. It's those transferable skills, and how do they embed those into the curriculum using Express so that they're prepared for that specific sector in what is a rapidly changing sector at the moment. So lots of different ways it can be used. Fiona, I'll pass on to you.
Thank you. So just to go back to some of the work that Chris mentioned, we support you further by providing a number of various platforms to help with teaching and learning. So we have created a number of how-to videos, all curated, by our customer success managers. And that is based off feedback and learnings from their existing engagements. Really and understanding what works best to meet the needs of staff and how to enable students. Those videos, those skill-based videos are continually being added to, and for those that are interested, we're also sharing and building those out in different languages. So if you have perhaps some online courses that you run overseas, we currently have those available in both French and German, and we'll add to those as we go on. And as you can see, we list out the different skills by term times so that they align with your schedules. Next slide, please. This really further demonstrates the various online services across a number of platforms, namely world famous YouTube, but really to help students as well successfully stand out with growing their competency around those core skills. So for students, we have a number of online courses, and these are skilled-based courses where they can earn micro credentials and badging, which they can of course put onto their LinkedIn profiles and include on their CVs. And that just demonstrates their ability across the various creative skills. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have a world-class team of very experienced CSMs who work alongside our colleagues at Jisc and Chris's team. And they are there really to help support and help you identify the most impactful routes to embed the tool into your institutes. And that would perhaps start with teaching and learning, and then go on to grow student engagement. So we run a number of different subjects by month, so that you can dip out and dip in whenever it best suits you. So I appreciate the print is a little bit small here, but you'll get more detail on that once we share the slides with you after this call. Next slide, please, Huda. As Mike briefly touched on, we also run twice a year the Adobe Education Institute, and this is exclusive for those institutes that have gone all in on Express. It is a weeks-long course that we run by different workshop topics. We run it in UK-friendly time, so this is very much based for our UK institutes. We have seen huge success through this particular delivery. So in the UK, we've had a 28% increase on last year's sign up, and then we've actually gone further afield with this into the UAE and to the rest of EMEA. But overall, there has been a 400% increase for sign up onto this particular platform. So we've just finished this half year, so we ran it 2 weeks ago. The next session will actually take place in November, so hopefully we'll see many of you on that particular November session. And just to give you an idea of some of the takeaways that we received as feedback from all of those members who joined us this particular time. So we had feedback that they would take away how to perhaps run AI across their media classes, create accessible PDFs, teach AI responsive AI, academic orientation for new students, exploring renewable energy research and build and present on that. There's marketing plans for campaigns, how to manage those across Express, 3D animation, even AI for improving admin tasks. So that's definitely a key one. And I think we touched on it earlier, also learning how to deliver a podcast, which is definitely a growing medium that we see. So in short, I think, and hopefully you all agree, Adobe Express is the ultimate no barrier creativity tool for staff and students to make them stand out and successful. Thank you, Huda.
Thank you. So I'm going to wrap up and just go over some final steps and actions. So the ordering window has opened on the 1st of May and will remain open until the 14th of July. On the 14th of July, the orders will close, so please make sure, if you're interested, to submit your participation letters. On the 21st of July, those that have ordered the Adobe Express will be sent some invitations to join the Adobe engagement program that Chris Thompson has given an overview of. On the 7th of August, invoices must be paid, and then on the 14th of August, there will be a step-on point from the Adobe agreement. And in October, the Adobe engagement program will begin. Thank you all for joining us. And let's go to some questions and answers. I can see there's some questions and answers, but some questions there on the chat. But before we go, for any further information or questions after the webinar, on the agreement, you can contact Howard Moody, and on the engagement program, you can contact me. The email addresses are there on the slide, and the slides and the recording of the webinar will be sent to you. Just going.
Just to pick up on the question on AI credits, the number of generative credits that you get per month is dependent on the license that you have. I'll just drop a link in here because it's rather complex. There's quite a lot of different options. If you go to that website and scroll down to Creative Cloud for Education plans, you'll see all the various options there. I mean, I guess the main ones are, if you go for an end user license, the Creative Cloud end user, you get 1,000 generative per month. If you go for Adobe Express, you get 250. Now, my understanding is that if you have 1,000 and you try to do 1,000 first, it will still work. It will just be a slower response. I don't know if Adobe colleagues.
That's correct, Howard. Yes, that's absolutely correct.
The important part to note, though, is that the Firefly video model is not currently included in any education license, and we are still waiting clarity as to when and if they will become available. I think that was the only question.
Yes, that was the question. I think I can't see any questions. If you've got any questions, please feel free to drop that in the chat. We'll give it a minute. Okay, let's go to the Q&A. There's a question there. Why is Adobe Express for iPhone users but not for students,
So I'm not sure I quite understand that question. Express is a web-based tool, so that can be accessed on phones and Android phones by students and staff alike. So I don't know, perhaps if it's maybe a different, perhaps the free version of Express.
Yeah, there's a second question that says, why is it free, Fiona? There is a free version of Express. What we're talking about here is the premium version.
Any more?
Okay, any more questions? I think no more questions. Okay. I think there's another question that came in. Will students get access to all of the online training all year?
Yes, they will, Chris, absolutely. So all of those training resources are absolutely available to your students. So as long as they have access to an Express license, they have all of that training available. And most of it is actually available on YouTube. Some of the staff training that I talked about, particularly some of the key training modules that we run on the Adobe Education Institute, are exclusive only training events for those institutes that have joined. But much of those resources are available as YouTube videos.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap up now since there's no questions, but thank you all for joining, and we'll send the slides and recording after the webinar. You've got the contact information for staff members, so please feel free to drop us, an email, or if you've got any questions, just let us know. Thank you all for joining today.